What happened after the plan fell apart? The plan was solid, detailed, approved. Everyone agreed it was the right path forward. And then, piece by piece, it failed. Not dramatically, not all at once, but enough to make one truth unavoidable. The future wasn't going to follow the script. At first, the cracks were easy to ignore. A missed milestone, a dependency that took longer than expected, a market response that didn't quite match the forecast. None of it signaled collapse. It felt like normal friction, the kind every plan absorbs before it succeeds. But friction turned into resistance. Teams began working around the plan instead of with it. Assumptions embedded in the roadmap no longer match reality. Customer behavior shifted faster than updates could follow. And the more effort went into preserving the plan, the more energy drained from actually responding to what was happening. To understand why the plan failed, we need to rewind to why it existed. The plan was built for clarity. It reduced uncertainty. It reassured stakeholders. It transformed ambiguity into steps and timelines. And for a time, that structure provided confidence. But the plan assumed a stable world, one where input stayed consistent long enough for execution to matter. That assumption didn't hold. Markets moved, users adapted, competitors experimented. And while the plan remained unchanged, reality rewrote the conditions it was designed for. This is where the reveal begins. Because when the plan fell apart, what emerged wasn't chaos. It was opportunity. The collapse exposed constraints that planning had hidden and possibilities that rigid execution had suppressed. And once the script stopped working, the company faced a harder question than how to fix it. What do you do when the plan itself is the problem? As the plan unraveled, the reveal sharpened in unexpected ways. Without the roadmap dictating every move, teams began noticing patterns the plan had filtered out. Customer feedback grew clearer. Signals that once felt contradictory now aligned. The noise wasn't chaos. It was information finally heard without constraint. The company had optimized for execution, not perception. The plan had assumed linear progress. Milestones, dependencies, predictable cause and effect. But reality wasn't linear anymore. Users changed direction mid-journey. Markets reacted in bursts instead of trends. And competitors learned faster by doing less planning and more responding. The plan didn't fail because it was wrong. It failed because it was too rigid to learn. Tension rose as leadership struggled with the loss of certainty. Without a clear script, decision-making felt exposed. Teams disagreed more often. Priorities shifted weekly. And stakeholders used to clean projections, demanded explanations no one could provide with confidence. The conflict deepened when early improvisations produced better results than planned initiatives. A feature rushed out to solve a live problem gained more traction than months of scheduled work. A team freed from timeline pressure discovered a simpler approach that users preferred immediately. Momentum appeared, uneven, messy, but real, and that was unsettling because it suggested something uncomfortable. The plan had been suppressing adaptability. By locking the company into predetermined outcomes, it had delayed responses that now felt obvious. The organization hadn't lacked intelligence or effort. It had lacked permission to change course. Still, abandoning the plan entirely felt dangerous. Plans create alignment. They provide accountability. They protect against chaos. Letting go raised fears of drift, of becoming reactive instead of strategic. But the evidence kept pointing in one direction. The more tightly the company clung to plan, the more disconnected it became from reality. And the more it allowed room for adjustment, the more clearly it saw where value was actually forming. The question was no longer whether the plan could be repaired. It was whether replacing certainty with responsiveness was the only way forward. The shift from planning to responsiveness created immediate friction. Without a fixed roadmap, teams had to rely on judgment instead of instruction. Decisions once deferred to timelines now demanded real-time evaluation. And that uncertainty exposed fault lines that planning had long concealed. The conflict escalated fast. Some leaders argued the company was drifting, mistaking movement for progress. Others insisted this was the first time the organization was truly aligned with reality. Engineers felt whiplash as priorities shifted. Product teams struggled to balance experimentation with coherence. The absence of a plan didn't remove pressure, it redistributed it. The emotional peak arrived when two parallel initiatives delivered starkly different outcomes. One followed the remnants of the original plan, executing flawlessly against outdated assumptions. It shipped on time, it met specifications, and it landed flat. Usage was minimal, feedback lukewarm. The effort was technically successful and strategically relevant. The other initiative broke every planning rule. It started as a reaction to live user behavior. It evolved daily. Scope changed constantly. Documentation lagged behind reality. And yet, when it launched, adoption surged. Users understood it instantly. Value appeared immediately. The contrast was undeniable. The plan hadn't failed because it was poorly executed. It failed because it was no longer the right lens. This realization unsettled leadership deeply. Planning had been their anchor, their defense against randomness. But now it was clear that clinging to certainty delayed learning, and delayed learning destroyed relevance. Still, replacing the plan with improvisation felt reckless. The breakthrough came when someone reframed the choice. This wasn't about abandoning structure. It was about changing where structure lived. Instead of locking decisions into the future, the company would anchor structure in principles. Clear intent, fast feedback, and boundaries that guided action without dictating outcomes. That shift transformed the conflict. Teams no longer asked, "Does this match the plan?" They asked, "Does this move us closer to what users need right now?" Execution became adaptive instead of obedient. Alignment came from shared purpose instead of shared timelines. The plan hadn't fallen apart by accident. It had made space for something stronger to emerge. But embracing that strength meant fully letting go of the illusion that certainty could be scheduled. They didn't rebuild the plan. They rebuilt how decisions were made. Instead of forcing reality to follow a script, the company shifted its center of gravity. Structure moved out of timelines and into principles. Teams were given clear intent, fast feedback loops, and boundaries that protected coherence without dictating outcomes. Planning didn't disappear. It changed shape. Execution followed behavior, not forecasts. As responsiveness became the norm, momentum stabilized. Teams learned faster because they were allowed to adjust sooner. Missteps surfaced early instead of hiding behind milestones. Wins arrived unevenly, but they arrived real. The organization stopped mistaking certainty for control and started treating learning as a strategy. This was the climax. The collapse of the plan revealed its true function. It had provided comfort, not direction. And once that comfort was gone, clarity took its place. The company wasn't drifting anymore. It was navigating, reacting to real signals instead of rehearsed assumptions. In the resolution, the lesson settled in quietly. Plans fail when they try to predict a world that no longer waits. But structure still matters, not as a promise about the future, but as a discipline for responding to the present. The strongest organizations aren't the ones with perfect roadmaps. They're the ones built to adapt when roadmaps become irrelevant. What came after the plan wasn't chaos. It was alignment without illusion. And that shift didn't just save the company time. It returned its ability to move with reality instead of against it. What